The African community, like any other community, is well structured, and its family units constitute the most basic unit of this system. Leadership is needed. The father typically is the leader of his family. With his passing, creates a vacuum of leadership. As a result, the need for the succession system amongst the African people. Welcome to the Summon, the African Summon, where we connect you to Africa and African culture. In today's edition, we'll be taking you to Babungo in the Babisi subdivision in the northwest region of Cameroon. Our guest is Fungwe Long Olivier Ndofeke. He is a title holder amongst his people and a leader of his own family. As a result, he is best placed to help us understand how the succession system obtains amongst his people. So invite your neighbors, friends, and loved ones and join us as we return to our roots. Welcome, Fungwe Long.
Thank you for having me.
Sir, it's a pleasure to have you. And I would like to ask, tell us something about your people. Where are they found and what's so peculiar about the Babungo people?
My people, the Babungo people, known as the Ngo, they are found in the Babisi subdivision of Ngo-ketunjia with neighbors as Baba 1, Oku, Bamisi, Bamunka, which is the seat of Ngo-ketunjia division, Ndop. And so the people are special people, peace-loving people who have as a cultural meal Ndai. And Ndai is pounded cocoyams that is eaten with dry cocoyam leaves, prepared with crayfish and smoked fish. You will also like to know, madam, that fufu corn and hockey berry, known as njama, is our staple meal. We have two. You need to come to Babungo and understand that the Babungo people, Babungo are hard-working people. They are farmers who do carving and smithing.
What kind of crops do they grow? You said they're farmers, and I think they do, is that art and craft, or is it painting? What kind of art as well?
Yeah, they do. They can carve good chairs. But remember that if you go to know about the crops, you will know that they plant corn, harvest corn. You want to buy corn, you come to Babungo after the harvest season or during the harvest season, you have enough corn. Granules are also one of the agricultural output of the Babungo people, say rice and a lot more.
Oh, is that where we have Ndop rice from?
Yeah, Ndop rice is from Babungo, and the Ndop plain is remarkable for Ndop rice. Madam, you need to eat Ndop rice. It has a special taste just for everybody who would like to visit the Ndop plain, say Ngo-ketunjia division.
I know. All right, thank you for that. So what do your people consider to be succession, and what types of succession do you have?
Yeah, for succession, we understand that succession is when you replace a title holder or the leader of a family who goes home. We have a succession at the family level. We have succession at the quarter level, and of course, succession in the kingdom of Babungo.
By
You want to,
by quarter level, you're referring to being a title leader amongst your people. Is that correct?
absolutely.
Okay. So if the leader, whether as head of his family, as a title holder, or as or the king of your people passes, succession requires that someone else sits in their stead, someone else carries out their responsibilities. In the case of the family, tell us how does someone come about designating a successor? How does a father choose who's going to replace him? Or is he the one who even chooses?
In case of a family, the father or the head of that family knows exactly who succeeds him when he dies or when he goes home. And that way, he has a way to designate his successor even when he is alive. How do you know this? When you see him constantly with his children, you get to know how he's treating them. And at one point, he decides to tell a family member who will succeed him. That way, when he dies, a family meeting is convened, and the head of the family is designated following the will of the head of the family. Because while alive, he tries to put his family alive and keep everything in order before he goes home. And so that is done at the family level through a family meeting. And in a compound where there is a big courtyard, the family hold their meeting, and at the end of that meeting, they come out with their successor. At this level, who is not a title holder, and he's directed on what to do
So
to follow the will of his father.
how does he choose? I'm referring to what qualities is he looking for? How does he determine? Is it going to be, amongst your people, is it just a male child that can be successor to his father, or can it be a female child? How does he come about making that decision on who takes over from him?
That's a good question, Mother. It depends on the family setup. If the family is a very big family, they know exactly what to do. They follow the successor through his activities, through the care he takes in the family, through his presence, through his uniting ideas and factors. So that way, the reserve of the leader of that family who decides on who succeeds him when he goes home.
So he now has determined who is going to succeed him. How does he communicate this to the family? How does he ensure that this person he's found is known, or does he tell them during his life, or how is that communicated?
Yes, I just told you a while ago that immediately he is convinced about who is supposed to succeed him, he writes a will. There can be a written will or a verbal will, madam. He can tell his best friend or the elderly person in the family. If the elderly person is a woman who can keep a secret, he tells her, or he tells the eldest person in the family who is on the family lineage. So when he dies, in the family meeting, the will is brought, and the eldest woman in the family breaks the news. And the news is supported by maybe the elderly person of the family. If the will was with the elderly person of the family, they listen to him. And in every family setup, they know who speaks if the leader is not alive. That way, in a family, the will of the family head is presented. Or at one point, if the family is a big family, a message comes from the palace, because the palace of every village is the village. So there is a chain between the palace and big families, family heads that link up with quarter heads and title holders.
So if he dies without making known who his successor would be, so he dies suddenly, there still is a leadership vacuum. How does the family go about determining who would be his successor?
Yes, madam, this is a difficult question with a simple answer. To say that it's difficult for the head of a family to pass on without the family know who is going to be the successor. Very difficult. That way, the family, in the family meeting, the leader is known. For example, I sitting here, my successor is known because my will is ready. And as a title holder, the palace know exactly who will succeed me when I go home or when God calls me.
But in case somebody dies, I still ask this question because I'm sure there must be cases where someone becomes a leader and may not have come to a decision or conclusion. He's still having children. He's not decided on who is going to be his successor yet. And he thinks he's got 70 years to come, so he's taking his time to make this critical decision. If something happens to him at that point, is there a plan B that could be put in place to come up with who the successor will be?
Yeah, if you are talking about the plan B here, when it's difficult, the palace comes in here. The palace summons the leaders of that family. They are summoned to the palace, and some title holders under the command of the font of the village are designated to preside at the meeting. And along the line, they send some intelligent people who are related in that family house. Because in a big family, there are units to mean that this house carries these personalities and these children. So when that happens, a sudden death, the palace comes in here.
What are the duties of a successor? So someone who steps in this role, what is he expected to do?
A successor is expected to unite the family. The successor is expected to coordinate the activities of a family. The successor is the person who takes charge of small problems, and the successor is the person who appeases the shrines in times of joy and crisis.
Now, when he takes over, I would imagine that there have been generations of successors. So if a person who is a successor to his own father passed away, his successor, does that person become his successor or becomes his father's successor, which is his grandfather's successor in this case? Or is there now a dual office where there could be a successor of that house and a successor of the larger house?
It depends on the setup of a family, because if there is a successor that is loved by the whole family, in that case, he can unite the two offices and there will be no problem. But in some cases, there is a line that is drawn. You succeed your father, and then there is another successor for the larger family. It depends on the size of the family and the relation of the family. Because when the grandfather passes on and there is a decision that is taken, I will tell you that it's always contested in some cases. But there are some elderly persons who come to confirm and reiterate. Madam, on this platform, I will tell you that I've been witness to so many families in that caliber, where the grandfather decides to take but a grandson to succeed him, and his biological children get angry. But immediately his brothers come and testify that our brother said it is the grandson that will succeed him. It is taken into consideration. But the truth is that big families make sure that their successors are known to the palace. They are known by the elders of the family, women or men, to avoid problems.
So, under what circumstance is it really disputable who is a successor? So, can someone name his successor and his children say, or his brothers say, no, they don't want that successor, or the grandchildren say they don't want the successor, even if it's that person's will? You just brought up a very interesting point there.
It's possible. It's possible. It's possible. There are some titles or families that are swimming in wealth, that are swimming in power. That way, if the heir apparent is not careful, the brothers or stepbrothers will fight him to death. So what you're saying is a complex question, madam, that care is always taken to avoid those problems.
And how is it taken? In other words, how can a leader who knows that he's probably in a position of a lot of influence or a lot of wealth, like you put it, and he knows in his absence, he is not just choosing his successor, but wants to ensure that that successor doesn't have is not disputed. How does he ensure? Is the fact that the fund, for instance, steps in, does that settle the matter, or can it be replaced if there is a great conflict over who it should be? I'm trying to say, is this a system that is susceptible to people's opinion, or does the opinion of the title or the father carry enough weight to silence that opposition?
Yes, an organized father or leader always takes steps to silence any confrontation, but at times it's not possible. So what is done is, many have been advised to make sure that they bring about their will. Their will can be verbal or a picture that you take with your successor. If you have an influence, the palace must be informed about the successor, because when you are no more, the confusion that comes up always ends in the palace, because the palace is the regulatory organ of a village. So at the level of the family, if the successor is known, it must be known to the palace. And at times they protect successors, madam, because if you are not very careful, if the successor is known before time, confusion can push him to be killed before time. so that it can, the right successor should give way to people who are fighting to succeed, to lazy people who are not working hard, who are not trying to make fortune, who are only looking forward to the fortune of their parents. So there's always a way to do that in order to block lazy children to come and
And
succeed.
would that simply mean keeping this information sacred, or
Absolutely.
what kind of, okay? And
It's,
so
it's a sacred decision.
you bring up a very valid point when you start talking about possessions.
Yeah.
Is succession really about possession among the Babungo people, or is it just a portion of it, or is it responsibilities, or is it things, or and how do the things come into it that it becomes such a big fight? You know, help us understand how to the proper way your people will want to have people perceive succession.
Yeah, Madam, this is an interesting question, and it has a complex answer because as Africans, you understand that it happens everywhere in Africa, say in the Northwest region, where all of us, you and I, come from. So you understand that there is always stopgap measures to be put. That's why I explained and I told you that the palace must be informed. Brings out a picture to tell the family that we're swimming in wealth, that before your father or grandfather left this world, this is a picture that was with the phone, showing who is going to succeed in case the father or the grandfather is no more. And at times too, there are some traditional rites that are performed depending on the family. If the family was one of the big clans in the village, but specifically in Babungo, it is done in a special way. Madam, I told you at the beginning of this discussion or conversation that the Babungo people are a peaceful people who are hardworking. So when that happens and it touches the palace, the others shied away. They are brought to submission.
So when the successor comes, is he presumed to take over everything that belonged to the previous his father, or is he in a position where he's administering these things for the benefit of all of the father's family, which he is now father over? Or how is it perceived is what I'm trying to arrive at. How this because
yeah, let me explain to you here. When a successor comes, he is told what he was supposed to do. If there are conjectures, if your father on leaving this world decided to give you plan A and give plan B to your brother or sister, you stay on your plan A. But at the end of it all, the main compound belongs to the successor. Everything cannot be shared to everybody the same. The successor has succeeding right, and the greatest share of the wealth, if divided, the successor has it all with him to make sure that the family is in peace.
so I was trying to find out. So what's the difference between a successor of succession in a case where the family head is not a title holder amongst the people, and a case where he is? What are the differences in these instances? And must his successor become a title holder automatically?
Yes, madam, this is another page that you are opening in this conversation. If a successor is succeeding his father, who was a title holder, he becomes a title holder automatically.
And what's the
That's a
difference?
simple answer.
What's the difference in the way the succession process is carried out in both instances, please?
Great. Now there are some titles that we put them in quotes. When a successor had a simple red feather, I put it simple depending. I'm trying to compare something. Because of a certain recognition, either you cut what we call a python, or you cut a lion, because when you fight a lion like a hunter and bring something that is special to the village, you are recognized. And there is another way of becoming a title holder. The Ngumba can decide to create a quarter and appreciate you with and recognize. The Ngumba and decide to, depending on its necessity, because you are a special case, depending on what you have done for the village, depending on who you are, depending on the family that you are coming from. That way, the Ngumba can decide to recognize you. And I told you a while ago that village is the fun. So all the titles can be categorized by the palace. And if you have a red feather, that the name is recognition. When your father dies and you become the successor, if your father had a red feather, the red feather is given to you. But again, it varies. Titles vary. It's just like in the government, where there is the senior minister, the minister of state is a senior minister. There is a minister, there is a minister delegate, the director general, head of service, sub-director, and so on. I think that is how villages are structured.
So their successors, do they automatically get these titles, or is there are the titles taken at the death of the person upon whom it was conferred?
Yeah. If you are succeeding your father, who was a title holder, he becomes a title holder automatically.
Okay, in a case where you don't want his title, maybe because it's got responsibility and you don't want to carry out, or you don't find yourself capable of carrying out those responsibilities, can you say no? You just want to be the successor.
You can say no. You can say no. But you must buy your way out from the Ngumba. If you say no without the blessing of the Ngumba, the ancestors will follow you.
So essentially, what does it mean to buy your way out? I know that African culture, there's a lot of language we use which is loaded with meaning.
Yeah, it depends on the title that you are carrying. If it is a big title, the Ngumba tells you exactly what you are supposed to give. There are titles that you are supposed, if you say no, you are supposed to bring only a goat. Bring a cow, you are requested to bring some money. There are a lot of things that you are requested to bring for the interests of peaceful separation, else the ancestors will continue to follow you. I am holding part of the what you are going to bring because they are traditional. It is not announced publicly like this. That's why I just had to smile.
I respect that.
Yeah.
I respect that. So help us describe an enthronement ceremony. So I imagine that when a successor is named, there is a ceremony or
Let me move on with you. If he is not a title holder, it ends at the family level. The whole family, this is the person who is going to henceforth take charge of the family and the responsibilities of the family and confer on him. And that's it. But if he's a title holder, it is done at the courtyard of the palace. If it's a quarterhead, it's done at the courtyard of the palace. If you are interested in the explanation of the quarterhead or a big title holder of the village, which are all done in the palace, including that of the fund, I will write on.
Please go ahead. I'm trying to understand what's this ceremony like. Give the audience is trying to know. I mean, not get you into any areas you should not get into, but is this something we're trying to get educated on our culture? What?
Yeah, good. Culturally speaking, at the family level, if you are not a title holder, as a meeting is held within the family and the successor is designated. In a compound where there are strings of small families that makes the compound a clan, the successor is designated in the courtyard of that big compound with the blessings of the palace. Not necessarily with some traditional arrogations. In the case where it's a big title holder, it is done in the palace. In the case where it's a big title holder who is supposed to be coronated like the quarterhead, it is done in the palace, in the courtyard of the palace. That way, there is a meeting in the Ngumba house that is presided by the fund of the village. Because the quarterhead represents the fund in the quarter, and a quarterhead in Babungo automatically is a very big title holder because you have a territorial command that you give reports directly to the fund who is in charge of the village, Babungo. Our case study here. Now, when it is decided in the Ngumba house, the head of the Ngumba, who is the fund, who is also the village, informed a college of notables, a college of quarterheads, a college of kingmakers in the Ngumba house. The Ngumba house, madam, you know that all the men sing Ngumba, all the men are members of the Ngumba, and at a certain level, certain men enter into certain houses which are not open to other men who are members of the Ngumba. So when this decision is being taken, it is taken depending the level of the person that will be designated or coronated in a few minutes ago, in a few minutes to come. So when the decision is taken now in the Ngumba house, the family of the quarterhead who has gone to the world beyond is in the courtyard of the palace, waiting to have their successor. Men and women come to the palace with their friends, the esplanade of the palace, waiting to get their quarter head. After the meeting, there's a way, there's a path that the phone takes off the Guba house to the palace. And then there is an information. In that meeting now, the quarterhead is designated. It is arranged on how he will be coronated. Who will go down and pick the quarterhead and present to the public. A college of notables are sent, maybe 2 or 3. They will first move down from the Ngumba house and summon the whole family to stand on lines and together. When they come out now, they will now come and take care of them. Let me use the pidgin word, charge them, to make sure that nobody is having a knife or something. Because as you know, when the successor is designated, somebody who thought that he was going to be the successor can remove a knife maybe and stab the guy to death, or can even use a baton to fight. So it is now announced to them that they should be quiet and listen to the message from the Ngumba. Then those 2 notables of a lower category or of a special category will now move back to the Ngumba house. And then they will now describe the positioning of the family in the courtyard of the palace. After the positioning of the family is described, the new successor is now directed to the person who is going to hold the successor and bring him to sit on his father's chair. Because a stool is brought to the palace, especially for that assignment. Thereafter, a college of notables now would line up and come down from the Ngumba house. When they come down, they will line up, and then the person who is supposed to hold the successor moves to the line, goes into the family, looks round, looks at the faces to be sure that he doesn't pick the wrong person. And immediately the right person is picked, the whole family, you hear a shout of joy. During, if there were the time of gunshots you were heard, and thereafter an announcement is made by the Ngumba that this is the new quarterhead. The name of the quarterhead is announced. The warning of the Ngumba follows. That immediately this man is not sin. You will be in charge. The head, the leader of that family now is called out. That you, Ngumba is giving their quarterhead to you. Make sure that he is fine. Make sure that he's healthy. Because this headache on him, you'll be in charge. The warning is given. That way now, the canwood from the Ngumba is put on the new successor. Blessings, good harvest, take care of the quarter, take care of the ancestors that are around the place. Make sure you are collaborating positively and constantly with the Fon, who is the village, and the Ngumba. If you are entitled to a porcupine, the porcupine now, like this by own, follows your red feather. Immediately follows your red feather, the please blessing, and then that tradition from a woman, because madam, I know you're asking me the power of a woman. Immediately the quarter head goes off, the traditional back stays with the woman, who is the main advisor and otherwise to the new quarter head. The back is removed and put in your hand, and where you put sacred things that belongs to you and the Ngumba, where you put all what it takes to change positively. If you go and involve yourself in witchcraft or in witch hunting and tarnish the image of the quarter, it is your responsibility.
A family head who isn't working in the best interest of the family, who is causing trouble, who's bringing division, who is not looking after the family. Does the family have any recourse? Because they've been given a family head. He's probably gotten so proud and full of himself and is wanting to lord it over the family and everything. Is there any way they can get relief from his terror, or are they stuck with him until he dies and there's nothing the palace can do to help them?
The first thing to be done is to notify the palace. And if you notify the palace, he must be called to order. That will be done. At the family level, he is isolated.
That's wisdom. Okay, and what's the importance of this system of succession to any family, and to the society at large? Well, why should we? Why would you say this system is good and should be upheld, and you're advising others to look seriously into who their successor should be? How does it help?
Madam, I think from our discussion this far, the answers are insights, because it is advisable, it is important, because as a quarter head or a title holder or a kingmaker or a family head, your duty is to coordinate the activities of the family. Your duty is to ensure peace. Your duty is to coordinate of the family. Your duty is to ensure that the link, you have the permanent link with the Ngumba, with the Fon, and with your family or quarter, to ensure that there is harmony, to ensure that there is peace, to ensure that there is division. That way, you help the Fon to coordinate his village, you help the Ngumba stand up like an umbrella to cover you. And the advice is I can share with our followers is that in life, you have to respect the customs and traditions of your village. You have to ensure that the ancestral shrines of your compound are intact. You have to respect the supreme authorities of the village, because some people, as I want to say, Madam, thank you for giving me this opportunity. There are some people who feel that it's better to antagonize Christianity with tradition. Some people will not understand what it means to understand that you have to wear a traditional regalia like this one. They will tell you that is synonymous to witchcraft, which is very wrong. So I want to appreciate you for bringing up this program, African Summon, to uphold the culture and the customs and the tradition of your people. It's important for Africa to remain united. It's important for us to know that we must be attached to our roots. If you are not attached to your roots, there must be a problem with you. Yesterday, today, and tomorrow. Thank you, madam.
I just heard the cock crow. That was so beautiful. And
I'm
with
humbled.
that, we thank you for joining us. If you like this content, be sure to subscribe to our channel, like our videos, and share. I am Manondo Akono saying thank you for responding to this summon and see you next time.